So glad you guys are here. We've updated. Some of you guys have been here for a few years, okay? And we've updated the program a little bit more. We're continuing to build upon what we have, and then of course the pandemic year hit us with a wrench. And even with students being back in person, we had to adjust again. So we are going to continue to call this year a pilot year. Okay, we're really confident in this year, but we're going to title it a pilot year. Today's session will be going over some of the changes we've made, some of the consistencies we have, and then of course get your feedback on anything that you may have to say. But for the most part, our goal and objective today is to make sure you guys have what you need to be successful in the classrooms, to build the relationships you need to build with the students, to have the tools and resources that you need. To familiarize yourself with us, our team, and just build on that. So at any point you have any questions, you can either drop it in the chat or unmute yourself. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Kiana, can you share your screen, please? So Introductions. I'm Steph Crosley. I just celebrated year 6 as the Money Coach Program Manager. I love what I do. Money Coach is all about impact. The beauty is we see the impact, sometimes in real time. And a lot of times, we do a longitudinal study every year. So we see the impact as it, continues the relationships that the students have, the knowledge that the students gain, the skills that they apply, are still with the students. So we're able to see that and to be able to be a part of that says so much. So I absolutely love what I do. And so I'm celebrating 6 years. Kiana, what are you celebrating? 6 months? So go ahead and I'm going to share it over to Kiana.
Is everyone able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
To answer Steph's questions, I've been with Secure Futures for 8 months. So I'm almost at the year mark, but it has been an amazing journey. It's been such a pleasure working with the organization.
Absolutely. And then just a couple of people, you can click to the other slides. Then just a couple of other people you might see or you hear from is Kristen Rule. That's our program director. She's super hands-on, very supportive. And then Felicia Fluker, who is our program associate. You may see a few emails coming from her as it relates to, data collection. So if you don't have your application, your background check in yet, she will be reaching out to you. So just want to familiarize you with those names just in case an email comes through. As I mentioned before, our objective is to make sure you have a thorough understanding of the program and to provide you with the support you need. Again, ask whatever questions that you may have. We want you to walk away feeling better and more confident in being a volunteer. So let's get into it, the basics. Money Coach will be an 11-week intensive hands-on online program. Now we have decided to keep the coaches virtual. Okay. Can we mute, please? Okay. So we have decided to keep volunteers virtual. Students will be in person, but because of the inconsistencies, schools aren't aware, depending on the number of COVID cases, they may send students home virtually for a couple weeks and bring them on board. We want to be able to provide consistency with our program. So we have decided to keep all volunteers virtual. Myself and Kiana will go to the sites where we will be in person and present when it allows us to be, just to kind of man the classroom, make sure the students and the site partners have the support they need, and that you are as comfortable as possible being virtual, okay? Now, the way the 11 weeks pans out, 1 week will be a virtual group session. We are asking for all volunteers to be on that call. We'll provide you guys with the Zoom link or the Google Meet. And if you're at Waukesha East, they do WebEx. So we'll make sure you have the tools you need prior to. So once we get you all signed up, you will have the link for that classroom. Okay. So it's 1 week on, 60 minutes, just one 60-minute virtual call. And then in the bye week, students will meet with their coaches one-on-one. Okay. So we'll repeat that pattern for 11 weeks. 1 week virtual, 1 week one-on-ones, students, and those one-on-one calls, we'll get into that a little bit later. But those one-on-one calls are between 15 to 20 minutes. If you're a one-on-one coach, you will be responsible for up to 4 students that you have to meet with in that bye week. Okay. Our stakeholders. So just so you are aware, we are all like, this is a team effort. And everyone has a valuable role in making sure that the program runs as successful as possible. So we do have site partners. Our site partners are the people at each site who, you know, are an extension. They are an extension of our program while we're not there. And, you know, they help us recruit the students. They help monitor the students. You know, they're doing a lot of communication with the students. Then we have you all as coaches. Money Coach does not run without you all. So we need you to understand how important your role is. You will be in a group, a coach team with 3 to 5 coaches, depending on how big the size of that group is. Our goal is 1 to 4 coach to student ratio. Of course, you'll have a program manager. So depending on your site, you'll be working directly with myself or Kiana, which means we'll be making sure we'll be doing the check-in, sending you emails, connecting you with the site partners, connecting you with your students. We'll be whoever is your designated program manager, they will be responsible for that particular site. So they'll be there in person, and that's who you'll communicate with for the rest of the semester. And then of course the students, that's why Money Coach runs. It's the students are the reason for the program. They're you know, we're here for them, and we don't want to ever forget that. Students are, you know, we work specifically with juniors and seniors. We go into the classrooms, into the schools, we go and recruit students. This is a voluntary program, so students are not forced to be in the program. That's what makes our program unique. Some students may have jobs, that may vary. Some students may not have never worked before, but that's perfectly fine because everyone needs financial education, at least the foundation. Next up, Kiana with the continued basics.
All right, so I'm going to hold off on session overview because later on through the presentation, we are going to show a weekly breakdown of all of the topics that will be covered throughout the program. So I just want to briefly go over the scholarship process with y'all, just in case some of your students ask you some questions. So for the fall semester, students are able to earn up to $350. We have attached financial incentives to some of the key takeaways that we want students to walk away with, such as opening a bank account, submitting their enrollment paperwork, expense tracking, meeting with coaches, things of that nature. We also have a partnership with Educators Credit Union. They are awesome, very student friendly. So if you are working with students that don't have a bank account, you can connect them with myself or Steph, so that way we can get them connected with an educator's representative. As I mentioned, they are student friendly, so students are able to open up an account without a parent's legal guardian. And then Educators is also able to waive the $5 fee for opening an account. There are also other financial institutions that have non-custodial accounts that might be better options for some students. And all of this information will be provided in the coach handbook. So after today's training, I will share a link with all the coaches that will give you access to the coach handbook. And similar to last semester, this coach handbook goes over the roles of both the group coach and the one-on-one coach. It's also going to have some tips in there. It's also going to have a more detailed program overview, as well as like the weekly session guides and discussion guides for group sessions and one-on-one sessions. Now, as far as student resources and assignments, those will be available through our LMS system that Steph will go over momentarily. But the point of that is to kind of introduce a more kind of similar to what we did with the Google Classroom, just kind of like a one-stop shop for students to be able to access everything Money Coach related. So they'll be able to access like enrollment paperwork, they'll be able to access the assignments, other additional materials to kind of help them through the Money Coach program. Any questions about the Coach Handbook or the scholarship process for the students? Okay.
Yes, is there a deadline on the scholarship program?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is there a deadline on the scholarship program?
Oh, that's a good question. There are due dates or deadlines, I should say, for certain aspects. So like, for example, the expense tracker will be due at the end of week 4. So if students don't submit or complete the assignments by that deadline, then they won't be able to earn that amount. So that's why we say they can earn up to $350, because that is dependent on whether or not they complete the stuff and then in a timely manner.
Thank you.
Yes, that was a good question. Any other questions about the scholarship? Okay.
All
How many
right.
students-
Oh,
How many
sorry.
students leave with a scholarship money? All of them, generally?
Yes, all of them do end up with some portion of the scholarship. One thing that I should make a note of is that we do pay the students via direct deposit. So that is why it's important while you're checking in with the students to stress to them to make sure that they open a bank account and submit their direct deposit form.
Thanks.
Yes. Any other questions?
Quick question. In the past, some of the students that I worked with sort of struggled to get their bank account open. And so I know staff and then the person from the school had stepped in to help them. Will that help still be available to them, even though we, the coaches, are virtual?
Yeah, absolutely. If your student are having issues kind of finding a bank account, opening a bank account, you can get them connected to Steph and I. We could introduce them to educators. As I mentioned, there are like a list of other financial institutions in the Coach Handbook that you could refer them to. Steph, do you remember of any other instances regarding bank accounts and how to kind of troubleshoot that?
Yes. So, sorry, I was trying to get my screen together. What was the direct question?
So Steph, I was just saying that when I volunteered before, some of the students had challenges getting a bank account because of documentation issues, and you and some of I can't remember, the person who's in the school had worked with them. One of my students, actually, the person from her school actually drove her to the bank. So I'm just kind of wondering about resources this year with being virtual. If we know that any of our students are struggling, what do we do?
Yeah, Vince, that's usually how it works, Vince. No, yeah, so this will be our first real challenge with not being physically with the students. Now, as I did mention, both Kiana and myself will be there physically, but we do have the partnership with educators, and in the virtual setting, they were able to open those accounts virtually. So students did not have to physically go into a branch, which helped out a whole lot. So, it'll kind of be a learn as we go. We'll utilize our resources. If we have to take a student to a financial institution to open that account, of course, that would be probably one of the last resorts, but that is something that we're open and willing to do. We will try to get them opened on, from the virtual platform, and just go from there. Sounds about right, Rebecca. But yes, teamwork makes the dream work, always. Teamwork makes the dream work. Any other questions? No. All right. So we're going to go over, I cannot wait to share with you all. This is actually exciting. Kiana, I'm actually going to share my screen now really quickly just to show you guys the new system that we have set up. This is one of the new additions that we've added, and super excited. We now officially have a Money Coach portal. And this is where all of the information, materials, students will be able to communicate. Yes. I hope it works. Okay. Is my screen being shared?
No.
No. Okay. That's weird. Okay, let's try it one more time. It like kicked me off and then.
Yeah, if it doesn't work, Steph, let me know. I can try it on my end.
Okay, do you see it at all? No?
I see it, but okay, it's here. Yep.
Okay, so this is our new Money Coach portal. We're working with a database system, and you know, we're super excited to bring, like last year we went back and forth with Google Classroom and we experienced some hiccups, but this is where we'll house all of the material. Students will turn in their assignments here. Eventually, you guys will be able to schedule meetings, one-on-ones with your students, but we won't get into that because that won't be our focus this semester. But we do have plans to, you know, make this the home for Money Coach students and coaches. So as I mentioned, so it's really cute. It's customized to the students and their names. They'll have a login, the dashboard. The students can, you know, see everything that they have to or that will be covering. Their homework assignments will be here. Their enrollment packages will be here. And then each week, it'll let them know what percentage of the progress they've made to that point. And again, they're still working on it, but we were so eager to show you all this, the module that, you know, we wanted to be able to, for you to see it for what it is right now. So again, you know, we have the session guide, they'll have the financial goal checklist, they'll have access to expense tracker and budgeting. And again, as they upload this information, they'll get the credit that they deserve and earn the money that they've earned for that particular week. Now, the goal is, so this will just, right now, you guys will have access to view it as students. So you'll be able to see exactly what students see, and we'll provide you with, you know, your access code or your access to get into the portal, and you'll be able to see what students see. Just in case students have any questions, it'll better help you direct students. And our plan for the spring is to actually build out the coaches dashboard. So then you'll actually be able to see more what students are turning in, be able to communicate with the students, as I mentioned before. But this is something new for us. We're super excited. And again, like, students can go in and change their profile. And yeah, I just love the portal, and I wish I wonder if I can, if as soon as you log into the system, a Money Coach video pops in with from a former student. And I feel like it just gives the students just all the little motivation they need to be great in Money Coach for fall 2021. So yes, that's the LMS, or the Money Coach portal is which we named it. Do you guys have any specific questions about the portal so far?
So Steph, we will be able to look at it as though we're a student. We won't be able to see what our students that we're coaching, their progress and stuff like that at this point?
At this point, no. No,
Okay.
unfortunately not. But you will be able to see what they see.
Okay.
Steph, if we're a one-on-one coach, is there some sort of like progress report that we'll get to be able to support the students who may be missing assignments, or are you guys kind of managing that on your end?
Yep. So we'll plan to do things like we've done before, like where, we'll monitor it. But if we're having any issues or students are behind, to, nudge the coaches who's working specifically with that student, like, hey, Jay, can you check in with, Andrea and see, why she hasn't turned in her consent form, or, something to that extent.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? No.
Is the idea that they would be in the one-on-one coaching sessions, that they would screen share to be showing us their budget and their expenses? Like the last time I volunteered, it was in 2019-20, so COVID year. And like my students would show me on paper, here's my expenses, here's my budget. So is the idea now that they're going to screen share?
Yep, screen share. And we're still ironing out the kinks, and hopefully everything will be, the plan is for everything to be ironed out before we have orientation with the students. That is something new that we've incorporated. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about that shortly. But yes, to screen share or to submit it to the coaches prior to that one-on-one session. So coaches will have access to that. Yeah. So maybe that's an email, maybe that's, a text message, but the plan is for students to get you the material before that one-on-one session. Again, last year we did do Google Drive, and, they were able to share it through the Google system, but with the new system, screen sharing will be probably what's best. Okay, and as far as technology goes, again, the schools or the site partners will tell us directly which platform they will prefer. So that's either Zoom or Google Classroom. The site partner will provide us with a link that we will always use every time we have a virtual session. You guys will receive that link 1 week prior to the first session, and it'll be the same for the remainder of the program and semester. Now, really quickly on orientation. Orientation this year, we have extended orientation. Usually program manager will, go in and do orientation with the students directly before the first week. And we'll spend time in that first session introducing coaches and students. So we have decided to take that part out and incorporate getting to know you with orientation. So orientation has went from 20 minutes to an hour long. You will receive an orientation date for your specific site. And we are asking you to be available for that orientation, because we have, this is where, we go into depth with students of what the program is, what their expectations are, what their responsibilities are, how do we move forward together. And making sure we provide students with the support they need. But then we also want to bring you guys in during orientation to where you can get to know your students right away. You get to know a little bit more about the students. So then the first week of our first 60-minute virtual call, you guys have that, you can just get in, a quick icebreaker. You're familiar with the students are familiar with you. You can get right into programming. So that way we're alleviating some, unnecessary time to just get into the programming. So that is something that's new. We're still working on orientation. We're going back and forth, and we'd love your feedback on what you prefer as a coach. If orientation, if this is the one session, we'd want volunteers to be in person. But also with the COVID policies, we are toying, going back and forth with, just keeping it virtual consistently, and, just having you guys arrive during orientation on the virtual screen, and then breaking the students up into, smaller sessions, and then having a one-on-one coach, a computer with a one-on-one coach with one group of students, one with another group of students, and so forth. So those are the two options that we're toying with. I know one group originally said that they wanted, they would prefer for all coaches and us to be virtual at orientation, but then she also backtracked and was like, oh, the COVID numbers went up, so we'll keep it virtual. So we may keep it that way. So just to give you guys a heads up, we will be sending out orientation dates once you agree to a site. Okay. Any questions, comments, and or concerns? No? All right, I am going to turn over to Kim.
All righty, so next up, weekly breakdown. So we already talked a little bit about orientation, that's really going to be the program kickoff for us. As you can see, the points in the bullet points that are bolded, those are the session topics for the group session. So as you can see, we got banking 101, expense tracking and budgeting, money path. Then we have the 2-year credit session broken up into 2 parts. As you can see, the second part is going to have a build your own lesson. And then the final session is going to be about future budgeting and then the program wrap up. Now, for the build your own lesson, this is going to be an opportunity for coaches to talk with the students to kind of figure out what are some financial topics that they would like to learn more about. And then you would develop your own mini lesson on that topic. Some things that you could talk about could be buying a home, investment, retirement, or if you have like a special expertise in the field, you can share that with the students. So throughout the group sessions, you want to make sure that you're checking in with students, getting some ideas about some topics that they want to learn about, and then creating something that way. As you can see, in between the group sessions, we have one-on-one check-ins. There'll be a total of 5. And then again, all of the detailed breakdowns of the lesson guides and discussion guides will be found in the coach handbook. Any questions about the sessions or one-on-one check-ins? Okay. So then we could move forward with volunteer responsibilities.
Yes. So volunteer responsibilities. I know we sent an email out just yesterday, just, getting a feel of as to what sites you would prefer, what role you prefer. And so now I'm going to go over, what does being a volunteer entail? What are we expecting you all to do? And how we can support you in those roles. So can you click on that hyperlink, please? So as a volunteer, the responsibilities are 1, be trained, and you're here today, so kudos. But also, be present on the calls, show up. If for whatever reason you can't make it, let us know ahead of time in case, we have to facilitate or another coach has to step in and facilitate, the usual. Make sure we have all updated information, updated contact information, just in case something arises and we have to get in touch with you. It just helps us with communication. Communicate with your coaches. I can't stress enough how important it is to just have some type of rapport between the 3 to 4, the other 2 to 3 coaches you'll be working with. So what does that look like? Possibly, jumping on a call prior to a session to go over what that session looks like. This is a pilot, so this will look new. We piloted a virtual program last year, absolutely. And this will look different from that program we piloted last year, okay? So we're all still learning. So it's important for us to all be on the same page. It is a little bit different. And in past years, we did have it where, group coaches or group group session is happening and students are pulled out individually. That's not the case this year. But we're still asking one-on-one coaches to be present on the virtual call. And the reason for that is to make, just to be in the know, to understand and to see what students are learning, to know what you should be addressing with the students, because that is important. Yeah, so as a group coach, so the breakdown of the two roles. As a group coach, you will be responsible for facilitating, controlling the tone, making sure that, you know, you're incorporating each student or all students. Thank you, Kiana. You must know I don't have my glasses on. I keep coming really close to the screen, huh? But no, yeah, so it's really, you know, just to control the flow of the session, making sure that students have a great understanding of what's going on. It's really important. Make sure they're feeling comfortable, and really just reading the room virtually. One-on-one, as a one-on-one coach, you know, it seems like I see the list. It seems like the list of responsibilities is a lot longer than the group coach. However, it's the one-on-one, and the group coaches are very, very extremely valuable. All the volunteers are valuable. But students stay in the program because of that connection, of that relationship that they're building with the students or with the coaches. That is so important. I tell this story all the time. When I first took this position years ago, we were paying students $500. Our retention rate was a lot lower than it is now. It was a lot lower. We were paying them way more money. And we incorporated one-on-one coaches. We incorporated, you know, actually building, like we put an emphasis and we made it a priority to make sure that students are, or coaches are building these relationships with the students. And we lowered the dollar amount because we wanted to serve more students, and the retention has skyrocketed. But it did that because of the relationship. Students really care about the relationships they have with a trusted adult. When they feel like they can trust that the person cares about them, it really does make a difference. So as a one-on-one coach, that is part of your responsibility, to just make students feel comfortable. Meet with them individually in that off week. And again, that call is a virtual. It can be on a FaceTime. It can be a phone call. It can be on Zoom. Whatever you and the student decide is what that works best for you two. That's totally okay. Okay. You get to determine with the student what time, what day works best for you. Some coaches will block off a certain time on a certain day. So if you know you have Tuesdays from 2 to 5 available and you decide like, okay, I want to do my one-on-ones during this time, that's perfectly okay. Okay. So you will be meeting with these students between 15 to 20 minutes, just checking in with the students, building that rapport, making sure they're tracking their expenses, or, you know, they have a budget and they're working towards the goal that they set out. That's important. Report, completion of check-ins to program manager. So either myself or Kiana will send an email out, just, hey, did you meet with this student? Were you able to meet with this student? That way students get credit, because again, there is a financial incentive attached to everything we're asking a student to do. So they do get earned money for meeting with you. Okay, so we would have to know that in order to make sure students get everything they earn. And that pretty much sums up. Those are the key aspects of the group coach and the one-on-one coach. Okay. And then just to throw it in there, site partners' responsibilities, because we all a team, we're all a team, we all have responsibilities and we all need each other in order to make this program successful. We did go ahead and add that so you guys can see who's responsible for what. Site partners, we had a whole site partner training with our site partners to prepare them for the fall. So we're super excited about, the direction in which we're moving in. So they understand they have to attend every session, some of our sessions may overlap. So, Kiana may start at one group and may finish up at the next group, which means the site partner has to be present the entire time. And because they are our body, our eyes present in the physical, then they are responsible for also controlling the energy and the climate of the classroom. Most of them have identify dates and times for our Money Coach sessions. They'll set up those links and provide us with that. And then, of course, they help us recruit the students. I actually just recruited at Waukesha East yesterday, and it was phenomenal. So I'm super excited to, be back in the schools, meeting with the students, and continuing on with the Money Coach program. Any questions, comments, or concerns as relates to volunteer responsibilities or roles as a group coach or a one-on-one coach? Oh, you guys are an easy group. We're just coasting through.
I was just going to ask, are we going to get a copy of it?
Yeah. The role, this form that you're looking at?
Correct.
Yep. So we are going to share with you all a PDF version of our coach handbook and workbook. You also have the student handbook in an electronic form. So we'll share that with you via email. So once we get to connecting you all, once we match the coaches together with the sites, you'll start receiving more emails from us.
Okay,
thank you. Scare you off. Okay. All right, Kiana, turning it back to you.
All right. So related to what Steph was saying about the impact that volunteers have, I want to talk a little bit about building relationships. We are, again, continuing to do virtual check-ins with the students. And I just want to reiterate to everyone that although it may be challenging to form relationships in the virtual setting, it is not impossible. You do have to maybe overcome some barriers, but Steph and I are here to support you, most definitely. So here are some key tips to remember while building relationships with students. The first one is get to know them by name, get to know them as an individual. So as students are coming into group sessions, you can be able to be like, hey, Joe, hi, Julia, hi, Michelle, to really make it more personable, to show that you are able to form a connection with them. The next one, start off all of the group sessions and icebreakers. Start off all the group sessions and one-on-one check-ins with an icebreaker. It doesn't have to be something big or grand, just something small to kind of ease the students into the check-ins. In the group, in the coach handbook, there are a list of suggestions, but you are more than welcome to come up with your own. You can also talk amongst the other coaches to kind of get some suggestions on how they engage and interact with students. Oops, hold on. What happened? Oh, how do I go back? Oh, I skipped the slide. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Using personal stories and experiences, this one is very important because it helps make you relatable to the students. Being able to share your stories, the mistakes that you made and how you were able to overcome them can serve as, lessons for the students. And then lastly, being authentic and transparent, the students will be able to tell whether or not you're being yourself, if you're being authentic. So, be yourself, be open about your experience, share the mistakes that you made, because it can kind of help make the students feel more comfortable to share their stories and things that they've overcome. Does any of the coaches have any tips or suggestions about how they have formed relationships that they want to share?
Hey, Hannah, I was just going to say that for the icebreakers, I really like using things that are money related.
Yeah.
Because then you get to know how they're viewing money, in the way that they answer those. So just a little thought on that.
Yes, that's a great tip. Thank you, Tabitha. Any other tips or tricks anybody want to share?
For myself, in the past, I've always used the icebreaker as asking the student about themselves, about their weeks. A lot of the times the student are kind of dealing with things outside of school. I just usually open a few minutes up just to say, hey, there's something that you need to talk about or share, or anything on your mind right now before we get into our session. And that kind of break a wall down a little bit too. Sometimes they want to share. Sometimes they'll just shake their head until they get more comfortable with you. But I do like to leave a few minutes open up for outside of school things.
Thank you. Anyone else have any tips they want to share?
You know, I think it's important to remember what's in it for them. A lot of these lessons are, you know, so impactful and important, but a lot of these students might not be in a situation in their lives to where it's directly applicable today. You know, going through the budget, going through income statements. Some of them aren't earning anything. Some of them don't pay their own expenses. Some of them do. So I think it's just important to kind of use stories to show it what's in it for them, because, you know, otherwise they get a little checked out when they're learning things that don't apply to their lives right now.
Yes, that was great, Vince. Thank you. Thank you. You know, the mentorship is what sets Money Coach apart from other financial literacy programs. So, you know, just being open and being honest, and then also remembering that, you know, you yourself were once, you know, at that age. So, you know, kind of pulling from those experiences can sometimes help foster these relationships. Okay, next up, we can talk a little bit more about what teens are going through today.
Wait, I tried talking with my computer on mute. So this is a slide that we included last year in the whole virtual world. And this is something that we want to keep in just because we want to prepare you for things that may happen. You know, MPS is already sending out Chrome workbooks, which means high level, they may be going virtual. Okay. So with that being said, as volunteers, want to just prepare you just in case that we are no longer in the students are no longer in a shared space, and they're back at homes, and they're back in the virtual world again. Keep in mind, you know, this is all new for everyone, even though we have a year under our belt. We still can experience some of the same things. So too much screen time, too little interaction, which is why we should incorporate or be prepared to incorporate some type of icebreakers, some type of let's talk, let's bring it together. The mentorship, as kind of said, is what sets our program apart. This is financial literacy, but financial literacy is not the end all be all with our program. Students leave with life skills. They're learning so much more, and we want to create an environment that, you know, really demonstrates that. So just be mindful of that. There may be issues with technology, internet, and who's to say, you know, this year with them being prepared for students to go back in the classroom and now they're back at home, the internet we may experience a high level of internet problems, but we have to keep that in mind. Students are starting to work a lot more. High schools are offering half days to their students, and we may get some of those students where, you know, their workload is starting to pick up. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of, and this is in general, actually, you know, students are responsible for, you know, the household things. And that has increased during the pandemic year. And it may still be a thing currently. So when we're talking with students, understand our motto is always to meet students where he or she is at. Okay. So please take these things into consideration. The stress of, you know, the financial struggles, mental health, it's real. It's real for us as adults. I know we've all experienced it in some capacity over this last year and a half. Understand that students are, you know, experiencing some of the same things. So just be mindful when we're working with those students. Now, all right, you click over to the next one, Kiana. And then with that, just managing frustration. Oh, I thought I changed it. Can we skip to managing frustration really quickly? So I just wanted to tie those two in. So just managing frustration. Expect to be frustrated. I know how many of you guys have children. I don't even have kids and they frustrate me, okay? That's it's a part of reality. So expect to be frustrated. Now, I'm telling you, hopefully we're selling you on this amazing program. We cannot sell you that everything will be 100% smooth sailing, okay? But it's so worthwhile. I promise you, it's so worthwhile. But so I expect to be frustrated sometimes. Use your team as a resource. Use me and Kiana as resources. So if you ever experience something, you're like, wait a minute, this is not making sense. I need to woosah. I need assistance here. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. Okay. Not only will you have our email addresses, but you'll have our cell phone numbers as well. Okay. So a simple text message, a phone call, totally okay. That's what we're here for. Program does not run without you all. We want to make sure you have as much support as you possibly can. Always seek to understand. And that's, really, I always tell people we can get caught up on the surface level. Okay. It's less about the surface. And sometimes it's the root. We have to focus on the root. So when students are not showing up, or you notice a student is so quiet, like they went from being active to being super quiet. It's a surface level. Seek to understand and let's not make assumptions. And remember that the students are still kids, which means they're still developing. We are still developing, actually. And they need to hear things multiple times. So we can't just say this is due on this date and then expect for them to give it to us, provide us the information on that date. We may have to tell them 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. In our experience, I've emailed students multiple times in order to get things, not making excuses, but again, meeting them where they're at. And they deserve many chances to get it right. They're the reason we're here. And we're here we're willing to make the sacrifices needed to put students in a position to be successful. So again, if you have to take a moment, if you need assistance, if you need us to step in at any point, please do not hesitate to let us know. Okay. Please do not hesitate to take your time, because we understand life. We understand, the position we're in. We understand this is all volunteer work. We know that in addition to volunteering, you have your work, you have your personal life, you have your business, you have so many other things going on. So know that we're here to support you. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Now, Kiana, trauma informed.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about trauma and trauma-informed care. I do want to first go off by saying that this is not like an end-all be-all training on trauma-informed care. There are a lot of more information and resources out there. So I do encourage everyone to learn about this, because this is something that you can apply not just in your interactions with students, but honestly with your interactions with any and everyone. Okay, so first, I just want to start off with a definition of trauma, so we can have like a foundation understanding of what that is. So trauma is an event, series of events or circumstances that someone can experience that can have either emotional or physical, or in some cases, even life-threatening impact on them. And it can have lasting adverse effects. Sometimes people are not aware of their trauma and the impact that it has had on them until years beyond. Okay. Next, there are different types of trauma. I have listed a couple examples here. The first example I listed is acute. Acute traumas are one-time isolated events. The example that I give is a car accident. The next one is complex traumas. These are traumas that have different components and layers to it. These can be traumas that happen over an extended period of time. These could be things that have either caregivers or adults involved that, again, kind of adds to the complexities with the dynamics of the different relationships involved. An example of that could be if they have experienced forms of abuse from adult figures. And then the last example that I have provided is generational trauma. This is something that maybe the students haven't experienced directly, but something that has happened to like family members along the line. This can also connect to traumas tied to like larger social or systematic structures. One thing that I do want to point out about trauma is that it impacts everyone differently. And just because someone has gone through the same experience doesn't mean everyone will walk away feeling trauma from it. So back to the example that I gave with the car accident, you know, let's say Tabitha and I both experienced that car accident. You know, Tabitha could walk away fine, you know, not being impacted by it. But for myself, you know, it could have impacts where I don't feel comfortable driving anymore, or if I am in the area that the car accident happened, it could re-trigger me. So just be mindful that each individual has their own trauma. Trauma impacts each individual differently. Oh my gosh, I figured out how to use this now, y'all. Okay, all right, cool. So that connects to trauma-informed care. So trauma-informed care is an ideology that is about how to kind of interact and work with individuals that may have experienced trauma and being able to understand and recognize the impacts that it has had. The best way to understand trauma-informed care is the second bullet point, which has the two questions: what is wrong with you versus what has happened to you. So on the surface, both of these questions seem not harmful, but if you really look into it, the first question is kind of putting the blame on the individual, kind of saying like, what did you do to put yourself in this situation? Whereas the second question, what has happened to you, is being able to separate the individual from the trauma, being able to look at the trauma, seeing how it has influenced or impacted that individual. And being able to separate the two is kind of giving the individual the empowerment to kind of overcome the trauma that they have experienced. On the next slide, I found these 6 guiding principles, which I thought was a good foundation to kind of figure out how to incorporate trauma-informed care. This isn't necessarily like linear. Some of these principles can overlap with one another. So the 6 principles that I have found are safety, trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and then cultural, historical, and gender issues. So the first principle, safety, is all about creating a warm and welcoming environment that makes individuals feel comfortable. As we talked about, we are still operating in the virtual setting, so safety could look a little different. You know, for example, if you're meeting with a student, they might prefer to meet over the phone versus video call because they might not feel comfortable showing their face or showing their living situation. So just being mindful of that and accommodating to kind of meet the student where they're at to make them feel the most comfortable. Trustworthiness and transparency, again, being open and upfront and honest. Communication connects to this a lot. So being consistent with your communication, being consistent with your check-ins shows to the students that you are reliable, that you are someone that they could depend on. And then by being open and transparent shows that you are able to relate and connect to their experiences. Peer support, when it comes to peer, it doesn't necessarily mean someone in their age group. It could be anyone that has gone through similar experience or circumstances, and they're able to connect with students that way. It could also demonstrate empathy and understanding. The next bullet point, collaboration and mutuality. This is about working with the students, you know, so you want to encourage students to make their own decisions. You don't want to make the decisions for them. You do want to be a support and kind of help them, you know, weigh out the decisions, kind of think about the pros and cons, but ultimately leaving the decision to them and then just kind of assisting them in that process. Empowerment, voice, and choice. Some of these students may not be used to being able to share their thoughts and share their voice and give their input. This might be a new and uncomfortable feeling. So you want to point out their strengths, highlight things that they are doing well, and kind of pull from that experience to kind of help them see the positives and the strengths within themselves. And then lastly, cultural, historical, gender issues. This ties into just being aware of the external factors that are kind of going on in the world and how that might impact the students. This can also impact the ways that they view finances and feel comfortable talking about financial topics. So I know that was like a lot of information. I am not a trauma-informed expert, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention to kind of being aware of maybe like your own trauma experience and how that has impacted you, and then kind of reflecting on how external factors could kind of shape and influence the students that we are working with. Okay, is cultural humility the next section?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good stuff, Kiana, good stuff. Any questions, comments, and or concerns? I know I keep saying that after every slide, but we're really coasting through. Hopefully we can give you guys a few minutes of your Saturday back. With cultural humility, let's get into it. What does, and I'm going to ask you guys to, take yourselves off mute, enjoying the conversation. What does cultural humility mean to you? Get a couple responses.
I think acknowledging that we as coaches, and it might be different for each coach, it is different for each coach, might take things for granted that, when teaching a student, I'm thinking of an example where, in order to buy my first car, my mom had to co-sign on my loan. Well, not every student's parents are in a situation where they can co-sign on a loan. So just not taking anything for granted as you're acknowledging that your own situation might be vastly different than the students.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vince.
Hey, Steph. I think it's more like, for me, I view it, I think you're right in what you said, but more so like there are cultural differences between how I handle something versus how a different ethnicity group may handle something.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just being sensitive to the fact that different cultures handle money specifically differently. Like some cultures, they don't believe that they should borrow money, right? Some cultures, like, credit and things like that is, is not looked upon as, as an important thing. And just, being sensitive to the fact that what Vince, I think, was saying, that it might be different for me than it might look, for the students. So just being sensitive of that and being aware of it. And being humble about your position and where you're at in life as well. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tabitha. And Eric also added, understanding that I don't know everything about other cultures and our experiences are different. You guys are all right in contributing to what it is, or what cultural humility is. How do I close this?
I guess the other thing that I would throw in is acknowledging the differences and also not being judgmental. Just because one culture's position is different than yours doesn't mean that one's right and one's wrong.
Absolutely. 100%. Yes. Thank you all for chiming in. Cultural humility is about accepting the limitations. We are limited because we all have these unconscious stereotypes of others and tend to use these stereotypes as a safety net to help explain behaviors, especially when we have limited firsthand knowledge of these cultures. So, you know, being humbled and just having that, having the, just an open mind to get to know other things, people that are different from who we are. Okay, so all of those tie in, and accepting like we all have these limitations. You know, no one is exempt because we, you know, our cultures are different. As it relates to the students, we go into the classrooms. I can tell you now, just a generation gap. It's a huge, two different cultures right here, you know, totally different. You know, you have different ethnicities, you have different genders, you have different ages, of course, different family environments that we have to be mindful of, and we have to be conscious as to make sure that we do not place judgment on the students, on their situations, on how they're handling certain things that we're asking of them. And you know, it's all about being mindful, being open to expand on your knowledge and understanding of what's happening, apply the skills that's being taught, but it starts with being aware. Okay. So thank you guys for that. And I think of accepting others' goals and dreams, even if they aren't goals I would choose for me. Absolutely. You know, we're all uniquely different. And that's so important to embrace, to recognize, and to understand. When it comes to implicit biases, what are implicit biases? Do you guys have any examples, or even for coaches that have worked with the Money Coach students in the past, any examples, anything that you may have experienced from a past situation, or if for anyone, what is an implicit bias?
Hey, Steph, can I share one that maybe people don't think of when we typically talk about implicit bias?
Absolutely.
And that is, there are assumptions about teenagers that they don't know what, maybe that they don't know what they want, or they're lazy, or they, I don't know. So I'll just make this very concrete based on my personal experience and the reason I raise it. I have narcolepsy. I slept in every middle and high school class from 7th grade on. And no teacher ever said anything about it because they just assumed that I was like staying up too late, maybe watching TV, goofing off. Nobody ever raised the issue that maybe there was something wrong. And I think we have these preconceptions about teenagers that influence how we interpret their behavior.
Absolutely. That was a good example, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else wanna chime in?
I'll chime in. Also with just to kind of use the implicit bias and also the culture movie. I think those both ideas relate closely to building relationships, kind of going back to that. It's important to build those relationships using those skills there, because you do have to understand what your student has gone through, or their ethnicity, and the type of things that they may have come up with, or what they're dealing with at home versus what your experiences were as a teenager. I mean, you have to remember, again, you were that age at one point in your life, and you dealt with some of those things that they're dealing with. Maybe not the exact same, because obviously the world is a little different right now. But I think it's really, really important to build that relationship with that student and use those skills and ideals, and being sensitive, as you know, the other two people were talking about, to those particular students' backgrounds, their life, and kind of what they're doing, although they're trying to learn about life skills and what they need to know financially. There's a lot more surrounding that, and I think that's the important part of the cultural humility and the implicit biases, is just building good relationships with those students.
Yes, absolutely. I get excited when you guys start joining in and sharing, and we're like one big family talking. So thank you guys for adding to the conversation. This is an important topic, and we don't want to assume that you guys have never went through training. I know so many organizations and businesses have incorporated some form of cultural competency into their professional development over the course of the year and a half. So, we just want to make sure that we're covering it on our end to again, I keep stating, to put you in the best position to best serve the students that you're working with. As it relates to implicit biases can put us in a place to where we don't get to see people for who they are because of these biases, because of these attitudes and stereotypes that have been, ingrained into our minds about a certain, group of people, individuals. And it does require us to take, just take a few steps back and really, that's why we switched to the motto a few years back: meet every student where he or she is at. We cannot group them the same. My car was recently stolen. I drive a Hyundai. And, it is so hard not to group all those teens the same, but the reality is they aren't all the same. And no matter how many are involved, every student in that age group, that demographic, are not the same. They're not out stealing vehicles. They're not out, doing what others are doing. So, to be able to remove those particular or those specific attitudes, or again, let me take a step back. It's important to be aware of those attitudes and beliefs prior to, and that once we're aware, that opens up the door for us to move forward, or to build on our knowledge and to build those relationships and to actually get to know the students, and to just be transparent about our own situations as we're building the relationships with the students. Now, some key components of, being culturally humbled is, like, as I mentioned before, awareness is key. It's important. It allows us to acknowledge, just who we are, what we do. Okay, sorry. Okay, and then our attitude, how we approach, you can click the next slide, Kiana. The attitude of how we approach new people and situations with an open mind is extremely important. I keep saying that, and I want to, just continue to hammer that in, that is extremely important. Knowledge, expose yourselves to different people. It is important. Different people, different cultures. It helps to build on what you know. You don't get rid of ingrained attitudes and stereotypes if we don't add knowledge there. Skills, question your automatic thoughts. Ask yourself, well, why are you thinking this? Why do you believe this? Think before acting. And it's totally okay to ask people, to ask others if you ever find yourself overthinking about a particular group of individuals, people, or situations. And then humility. We are all products of our unique environments. I am different from, the next Black woman. Our experiences are different. Our situations are different. Our perspectives are different. How we were brought up is most likely different. So we're all unique. We're all unique, and we can't assume that because I went through this, someone else went through that. And we all have the same belief on this. I can't stress we're all unique individuals. And that is what makes us. That's what makes everything so great. You have all these unique parts coming together for a greater cause. There's so much to be learned. Cultural humility, cultural competency, implicit biases or combatant nows. It's all a learning process. It's not that we go through this a couple of slides in this training, and now boom, I'm an expert. No, we're continuously being challenged. We continuously have to, when those thoughts come up, because they're embedded into our subconscious. So they're just floating, they're sitting back there. And when we're put in situations, they come out. So we'll always be challenged. It's just up to us to, one, again, be aware, build on our knowledge, apply our skills, and to recognize when we're moving in a way that is not ideal. Okay. I think Tabitha brought this up a little earlier, culture or humility and student engagement. When it comes to that, and when we're talking specifically, we're working with students, understand that, it is hard to talk about money. And I express this to students in the recruitment process, and I let them know, we don't generalize. We generalize the concepts, like the important concepts. So we have to know how to manage our account. We have to know how to track our expenses. We have to have a budget. We can generalize that. However, when it comes to our specific financial situations, we cannot generalize that because we all come from different financial backgrounds. Okay. And that's how I sell students, like on the one-on-one segments. When you meet with your one-on-one coach, be open. Your coach is here to help you, to assist you in whichever way possible in furthering your understanding of your financial situation and how you can get better at it. Okay. Now, in this, we do run the risk of judging or insulting, if we're not aware. So we have to make sure that we are not placing our own individual. I think Michelle tackled this, and I think it came up in Tabitha's feedback. But when we're talking to students about their situation, please, 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 please be mindful that we are not being judgmental. Okay, be sensitive because we don't know if their financial situation is cultural based. If we don't know we don't know where exactly they're coming from. So just be open and understand that we're working with the student. We're not working for the student. We're not working at or talking at the student. We're working with them on improving their financial understanding as it relates to the Money Coach program. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns? It's my favorite line. I'm sorry, guys. It's my favorite line.
I'll jump in and answer that one this time, Steph. So I just want to say this is actually one of the things that I think I get out of the program the most. So we often focus on what the students get out of it, but I think coaches also get a lot out of the program. And I teach at the university level as well as volunteer at the high school level. And what I've gotten out of kind of listening more to the high school students is a much better understanding of the students coming in to the college level. And I think it's made me a much better instructor at the college level in understanding where these students are coming from. And so I just wanted to sort of throw that out there, that this is kind of one of the key kind of benefits that we all get as coaches.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay. Moving right along. Oh, well, actually, before we get to the next slide, this pretty much, you guys have been a great group of volunteers because we are literally near the end or at the end, but want to just reiterate some things. Our focus today was to tackle on just like building those relationships and how to, facilitate the virtual setting. One thing we did remove from the training, because it is virtual and we understand burnout, we did remove the end of actually going through the individual sessions. Like in past trainings, we went through every session and let you guys know what the activities are, how you should run them, et cetera, et cetera. But we took that out. Now we will provide you all with the coach's workbook. We do hope that you guys will go through it and familiarize yourself with it. It's really self-explanatory. But if you come across a week and you're like, I don't understand what you're asking us to do, how you're asking us to facilitate this lesson, do not hesitate to reach out, okay? All right, Kiana, with the reminders.
Okay, so just quick reminders that I want to make everyone aware of. So in the past, we gave Money Path access to the group coaches. This time around, we're going to give access to Money Path to all the coaches. That way, everyone is able to familiarize themselves and then can better assist your students when we get to the Money Path lesson, which I believe is session 3. In the next couple of weeks or so, Felicia will be emailing out kind of like the login, the access code, instructions, things of that nature. Second, we will be printing out hard copies of the money path and 2-year credit instructor notes and be providing it to the group coaches once we have all the roles assigned. The third thing is we ask that you promote and share Secure Futures on social media. We do have a Facebook page, so if you haven't already, please go and like our page. Remember to tag us and remember not to show student faces in pictures. And then the last reminder is Felicia sent out emails to those that need to complete the MPS background check. This is good for a year. So if you did not receive an email, it's probably because you are already a volunteer and we already have your and they already have your results on file. So keep an eye out for an email from Felicia on that. But I believe she sent it out yesterday or the day before. Any questions about these reminders?
I have just a quick question on the MPS stuff. Does everybody need to actually set up the VicNet account? I have one and I went through and like did that, but I just wanted to see if everybody else needed to do that.
Steph, do you know the answer?
Yeah, so I'll follow up with Felicia because she's in charge of that right now. You shouldn't have to, but we will get confirmation and we'll send all of that in an email.
Okay, thanks.
But if we do, Rebecca, you're 2 steps ahead.
Well, I had one and I was able to figure out how to log back into it. And I think it was something that we had to do a couple of years ago. And so I think I'm in the system, but I did the background check piece and then that was also inside VicNet. And so I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing something.
Vince, I think I'm with you on the, we just had to submit an application. The VicNet was just I think just protocol for MPS to send out to everyone and to record. I think your hours are recorded with MPS if that is something that you need, but we also record your hours here with Secure Futures. So again, but I will get a definite answer and we'll follow up.
I just have a question. Does anyone else have any new tips for a new person that's coming aboard?
Yes, be yourself, have fun, be confident. This isn't a job. This is not a job. I don't want you guys to approach this like this is a job. Oh my God, we have to do this and we have to do that. They want to say, no, we're going to give you a lot of information. Yes, this is financial literacy, but have fun. Work with your team and create the environment that you want at your site. I cannot stress that enough. No 2 Money Coach sites are the same at all. Coaches, you guys have any input? Those of you who are returning?
I can share some words, but my baby's right next to me trying to share some words too, so bear with me. I absolutely love how much fun you can have during these sessions, but how much of an impact you can make on these kids. I think the biggest thing is realizing that we know a whole lot and they really don't know much. And so really keeping it super simple for them in ways that relates to them is the best thing you can do. Because we often feel like Stephanie said, like at our job, your debt to income ratio and your assets and your reserves and this and that. They don't speak that language, but they do love saving for snacks. They do all aspire to either be in a career or in the trades. They do all want to make money. They all will be moving out, in the next couple of years, probably either to college or moving out with a roommate or something. So like grab relatable things that even like, if you think about it this way, if they can walk away with one thing, you've done your job. So like just trying to keep it more simple, I think goes a long way versus trying to like overcomplicate things. Because when you keep it really simple, then they can apply it to what's going on in their personal life. And then that's when they make that connection and that aha moment occurs. That would be my advice. I think at the beginning I was like so caught up in, you know, like, oh, you know, I feel like all these kids eventually are going to go buy a house because I'm a mortgage loan officer. So all these kids are going to end up, you know, buying a house one day. So my job is to, you know, help them think through that. No. These kids just need to learn how to save money. These kids needs to know how to track. Rogelio agrees. They need to learn how to track their expenses, and they need to learn how to like differentiate between the needs and the wants, because they really don't, you know, they really don't think about that. And then you don't really start to think about that until your budget hits. And then when your budget hits and you got no money, then you start to think about your needs and your wants. So getting them trained early to think that, I think that's like our biggest role. So just like keep it super simple, super light, be fun with them, like tell them jokes. Like Kiana can attest to this. I like to make them laugh. I like to, you know, oh, my kid's in the background, you know, he's, you know, going crazy over the snacks or whatever, you know, just keeping it real. Like you're a real person, they're a real person, and that's how you'll make more connection.
I agree with that. Just real quick, I'll add to what you just said there as well. I think another thing is to be really authentic. You mentioned it earlier in your presentation, and keep it simple. And then, as you just mentioned, also be excited. Be excited for them. Be excited that they're looking to learn about finances. And you're right, they're getting ready to either have a roommate or going to college. But being excited for them makes them excited. It makes them want to participate more and learn more from you. I will say share experiences and just let them know that. I would always let them know that I was in your spot at one point. It took me this and that time to catch hold of this concept. Just letting them know that you are there with them and you're with them along the way, and that they're not alone in this process. That absolutely helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, I would add, I think this has been said a few times, but be willing to share, but also be willing to listen. I think so many times we're kind of like, we've been here and we've done this, but it's also like because they are people and they are experiencing life in different ways. I think there's a lot that we can learn, and I think it also will enhance our ability to mentor and coach and guide them through the experiences that they have. But we won't know that trying to impose our stories on them too. So I think just creating space for them to share their experiences and listen. And I 100% agree with keeping it simple, but also they have so much access to technology and information. So don't underestimate the assumption that they might have about money or personal finance, because they're getting it from so many other places. So finding ways to connect their experiences, the information that they get, and making it relevant to them, I think is super helpful. But like everybody's already said, overcomplicated, but I think once you start to like hear from them and meet with them, you'll see, I think the pieces will start to come together for you. But just continue to realize that their experiences are just as important as the one we've had. And although we can add value, I think being able to learn from them will make us better coaches.
You guys make me so proud listening to you talk about your roles as a money coach. Oh, I'm so excited. I want to coach.
Hey, Stephanie,
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you honestly, like I am so glad back in coaching. Like it just makes my heart so happy to be involved and like to be with these kids. Like, and you guys, you're all so phenomenal. Like you, Brenda, Kiana, everybody I've always worked with over there. You guys are all just amazing. And I'm so happy to be back. I'm gonna tell you something. I love the virtual thing. I really do. I really do. I love the virtual thing. You know what? It's their thing, right? If you think about it, like from that generation, that's their thing. And that too, like we got to keep in mind, like they're on, you know, computers and Zoom all day. So like, you know, getting them engaged and stuff like that too. It's harder sometimes, but it also like it's their thing. So it's like they're in their element. So I love it. And I'm so glad to be back.
Yes, we're glad to have you. All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. And I think it's like one more slide, right, Kiana? Maybe. Yep. So we did send out the site, the dates and times that will be available this fall. Hi, there he is. You're making all that noise. Now we get to see you. Hey, handsome. No, so these are the dates and times we have available. Rufus King, we're still working on solidifying the date. I think we're going with the time frame is, oh, just emailed her. Let me double check it. The time frame, I think it's the 10 to 11 o'clock slot, but I'll confirm that. I believe it is the 10 to 11 o'clock at Rufus King, but we're still working on dates. But everywhere, everything else, we have the dates, but these are the time frames and the days of the week that will be available. So if any of these work for you, you have a preference, we are asking for your top 2 so we can get you matched up as soon as possible. The first orientation, I believe, is in 2 weeks. So just want to make sure we have everything on our end. It was a little struggle getting all the dates. As you guys can see, they're not all solidified, but these sites were so adamant about having Money Coach at their site. So I do think that we'll have the support we need. It was just a matter of figuring out how the school is adjusting to the pandemic and the COVID policies that pushed us back from receiving all the dates, but our support at all of these sites are phenomenal. So these are the dates and times. If you see anything that, again, stands out, make sure you go ahead and send those to us in an email so we can start that matching process.
Steph,
yeah.
is that Marshall time really 2 hours, or is
No,
it
no,
still
no.
trying to figure out which hour it is?
Yeah,
no.
ahead, Steph.
So Marshall is, so we have a very new site at Marshall. I'm actually going there Monday, and we'll iron out the details. She gave us the time frame because they want to cover lunch, the lunch period, so students are less likely to miss out on class. So they're trying to figure out how many students per which lunch hour is going to commit to the program, and then we'll come up with an hour, but it will be within this time frame, if that makes sense. Okay.
I have a quick question. So once sites are determined, we'll all be notified when the orientation is for that particular site.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular site may or may not be virtual. Okay. Just want to make sure that's no problem. I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes. And we won't force anyone to be virtual if anyone is uncomfortable, just an FYI. We're going to do what works best for the entire group. But we did throw that out there as an option. Okay. I mean, you guys see something that stands out, you can go ahead and email Kiana right now what your preference is before before that site gets taken.
You know, I already did, right?
Yeah. Good. Uh-oh, Kevin just emailed Tabitha. Yep. They're coming to my phone right now as we speak. So thank you guys for that. Well, that concludes Money Coach Training Fall 2021. I want to reiterate, this will be just like another pilot for us, but we are confident in what we have added to the program. We're confident in you all as volunteers. We're confident in our site partners. We just have to get the students on board and be just as confident with us. But, I met with Waukesha East. Waukesha East was a site that we that we were not at the last 2 years just due to some issues with just retaining of students, but we love the site partner. We went back, we got together as a group. We did some brainstorming. I went to the site yesterday to do some recruitment. And when I say the school is on board, the administration, we have their full support. They actually have an application process that the students have to go through. And then from there, just to really prove that they want to be a part of Money Coach. And after the recruitment, they already had 8 applications. Like, students start filling out the application right during recruitment. So that lets us know, that gave me a lot of confidence again, that this will be another great Money Coach year. So we're excited. Yes, thank you. Hope you guys have a great weekend, a safe weekend, and we will be in contact as early as Monday as we're matching and getting things situated. If you guys have any questions from here on out, please do not hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks, Kiana.
Thank you all.
Yes,
Have a
yes.
great
Thank you,
day.
everyone.
Steph, Kiana, great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Steph,
you.
Kiana. Good
Bye,
job.
everyone.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.